All right, we're going to talk about Al-Mamnu' Minas-Sarf today, which is also called Ghayru Munsarif. And this case is not mentioned in Al-Ajurrumiyya. Yani, the name is mentioned, but the details or the issue is not mentioned. Al-Ajurrumiyya completely skips this case because it is a case that requires effort. And before I read what the author has for us, I want to give you some background information to make what the author wants to present to us easy. In fact, what the author wants to present to us is just a little bit, because what we're talking about in Qatru Nada at this point is what we're talking about i'rab signs. We're not talking about al-mamnu' min as-sarf itself. We're talking about i'rab signs. So just like there's details for the plural, there's details for the dual, there's details for all these cases. We touched on each one of them because of learning the i'rab signs. Also, the author wants to teach us about i'rab signs, unoriginal i'rab signs for this case, al-mamnu' min as-sarf. But not to talk about al-mamnu' min as-sarf itself. So he's not really going to go into details. He has a chapter for al-mamnu' min as-sarf in which he'll go into details, but we are going to go into some details just so that you can understand what the author wants, the little bit that the author wants to give us. So we're going to do an introduction to Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf. What does this mean, Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf? So Mamnu', the word Mamnu' means prohibited, barred, prevented. So something is prevented from sarf. And sarf here, many scholars say, sarf here means tanween. You know what's tanween? Prevented from a tanween, according to that. Ghayru munsarif would mean not taking a tanween, according to that. What you really want to do is become accustomed to the name Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf or Ghayru Munsarif. I would transliterate it for you, but since we're taking an Arabic lesson, you should be able to read the Arabic. So I'm not going to transliterate all of that. Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf or Ghayru Munsarif. And I'm not going to translate that name either, because it's kind of awkward name to translate it. So I'm just going to call it Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf or Ghayru Munsarif. What is that? This is something that exists in Arabic language pertaining to some nominals. You know, in Arabic, you have the ism, nominal, and you have the fi'l, verb, and you have the harf, the particle. Al-Mamnu' min as-Sarf is something that exists in nominals. And what it is, to get all the way to the end of the story, it is to deprive a nominal of taking a Kasrah. To deprive a nominal of taking a Kasrah. And to deprive it of taking a Tanween. To deprive a nominal of taking a Kasrah and a Tanween. So then, if it's not going to take a Kasrah, meaning we're talking here about the state of jar, because Kasrah is a sign for jar. So if it's not going to take a kasrah for the sign of jar, it's going to take a fatha as a sign of jar. That's why we're here now. We're talking about unoriginal i'rab signs. So now we're going to talk about words that their sign of jar is a fatha instead of a kasrah. They don't accept a kasrah. They can't take a kasrah. And not only they can't take a kasrah, they also cannot take a tanween. Why is that? That's what we want to talk about today. And the explanation of that is elaborate. It requires your concentration and it requires your study. This is why it's not present in Al-Ajurumiyah, this whole case. Why would an ism not be accepting of a kasrah or a tanween? The answer is because if there were such an ism that is not accepting of a kasrah or a tanween, then that's because this ism in some way resembles a fi'l, because the fi'l, it can't even take the state of jar, right? You should be aware that the fi'l cannot take the state of jar at all. A fi'l could be marfu', so if it's marfu', it could take a dhamma. It could be mansub and then take a fatha. It could be majzoom and then take a sukoon. But what about jar and taking a kasrah? The fi'l will not be majroor and then take a kasrah. So, and don't you remember how we had that noon? Do you remember noonul wiqaya? Like if you say darabani, darabani, that this noon here, this noon is called noonul wiqaya. That noon is there to protect the verb from taking a kasrah. Yani the verb is daraba, dad, ra, ba. And then though we had this ya here, which is the pronoun, darabani, he hit me, that ya means me. This ya comes along with its kasrah. Had we connected the ya to the verb immediately, then we would have said darabi, and then this ba, which is part of the verb, would have had a kasrah on it. But we didn't want to allow the verb to take a kasrah. So we brought this noon here. That's called noonul wiqaya, the noon that protects the verb from a kasrah. Wiqaya is protection. That's the noon that protects the verb from a kasrah. We talked about that before. And you're taking notes and you're reviewing. So inshallah, you know that. So what am I saying? I'm telling you all why a verb doesn't have a kasrah. The verb does not take the kasrah at the end of the word. So then it's going to be the ism that takes the kasrah at the end of the word. So if there were an ism, a nominal, that's not accepting of a kasrah at the end of it, then that's because that ism, that nominal, is resembling a verb some way, somehow. This nominal is resembling a verb some way, somehow. So then we're going to treat it like a verb and deny it a kasrah. So mamnu' Minas-Sarf is denied of sarf, a word that's denied of sarf. And what about the tanween? Why would we deny this ism, a tanween? Because tanween, as you know, is a sign for an ism. It's a sign of an ism. So when it was that sometimes an ism would resemble a fi'l, then we will also deny it a tanween. So when a word is not accepting of a Kasrah and it's not accepting of a Tanween, then it's called Mamnu' Minas-Sarf. This is one of the more challenging chapters of naHw, and I will try to make it clear for you, insha'Allah ta'ala. So why would an ism resemble a fi'l? And what are those asma that resemble af'al? Bismillah. So let me say to you like this. In Arabic language, you have usul, usul, that means fundamentals. You do have like a notebook with your vocabulary, right? So when you learn new words, you put them there so you know them. You're not hearing a bunch of Arabic words in an Arabic lesson and not taking note of those, right? You wouldn't do that. Inshallah. Usul, you have usul, fundamentals, and you have in Arabic language furu', branches. Furu'. Hope my handwriting is legible for you. Usul and furu' and branches, fundamentals and branches in Arabic language. And so, for example, a fundamental in Arabic is tadhkir, masculinity, masculinity. Tadhkir, masculinity, that's a fundamental in Arabic. So what's derivative then? What's derivative is ta'neef, femininity. Ta'neef is derivative. Tadhkir is original. You'd say, for example, Muslim, that's masculine. And then you'd say Muslimah, that's feminine. How do we know which one is original? Because the one that doesn't have something extra is the original one. Or another example. In Arabic, you have ifrad. In Arabic, you have ifrad. That means singularity. Singularity. Being singular. That's an origin. So then what would be the derivative case? Both tathniyah duality and jama' plurality, both of those are derivative. Both of those are derivative. Derivative from ifrad. Tadhkir is the origin of ta'neef. Ifrad is the origin of singularity is the origin of duality and plurality. And also in Arabic, for example, you have ismiyah. Ismiyah, that means being a simple noun, a regular noun, not being a description, for example. Being a description is something more than just being a noun. So then a derivative case would be wasfiyah. we're probably going to wind up repeating these things when we get to the chapter of Al-Mamnu' Minas-Sarf, if Allah gives us the life. And also, for example, an origin in Arabic is tankir. Tankir, that means indefiniteness. Indefiniteness, being indefinite. So then the derivative case would be ta'rif. Ta'rif, that means being definite. So if you were to say a man as opposed to the man, a man or the man, which one of those would be the origin for the other? A man would be the origin for the man, because a man is indefinite. It's any man. The man is definite because it's a particular man out of all of them. So the origin then is to be indefinite. So to understand Al-Mamnu' Minas-Sarf, you have to understand all these concepts. You need to understand masculinity and singularity and indefiniteness and some other things. Maybe I don't have to go through all of it right now. Maybe this is enough to get you started, just to understand what's Mamnu' Minas-Sarf. Let me see if I can go from here, and if I need to add more for you, I'll add more for you. So, what happens in Arabic is that, remember that the old Arabs, they used to not like for something to be heavy when they speak. They like for things to be light when they speak, easy to say. So then there were some things that for them, in their language, they deemed them heavy. And whenever they would come across something heavy words, talking about heavy words that in a literal sense, they don't have weight. You can't weigh them on a scale. So in an abstract sense, when they had some words that they deemed heavy, they would lighten those words some way or somehow. For the Arabs, an ism is lighter than a fi'l. The ism is the lighter one. And the fi'l is the heavier one. Why? Because the ism doesn't even need a fi'l, but the fi'l needs an ism. And because the fi'l comes from an ism anyway, which is the masdar. The fi'l is derived from the ism, but the ism is not derived from the fi'l. And the ism doesn't need a fi'l, but the fi'l does need an ism. So they deem the fi'l, the verb, heavier than the ism. So the ism is light and the fi'l is heavy. And sometimes there are things that would bog the ism down. There are some things they bog that ism down and make it heavier. What's going to bog the ism down and make it heavier? Derivative cases. Derivative cases are going to make that ism heavier and heavier. And so, for those Arabs, whenever one ism would have two derivative cases, then it just became too heavy. When one ism would have two derivative cases at the same time, it would be too heavy for them. And then they would lighten it somehow. So, for example, I need to give you some more. For example, one is the waznul ism. An original case in Arabic is for a nominal to look like a nominal, to have the pattern of a nominal. For a nominal to have the pattern of a nominal, to look like a nominal in the first place. So it would be a derivative case for a nominal to have waznul fi'l, the pattern of a verb, waznul fi'l, the pattern of a verb. So let's take an example. Let's say someone's name was Yaghlib. 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 That looks like a verb, if you know what you're looking at. That looks like a verb. But that's his name. If that's his name, that means it's a nominal. It's not a verb. Or someone's name might be Yazid. Or someone's name might be Yazid. That looks like a verb there. But that's his name. Or, yani, one that you know is Ahmed. Someone's name might be Ahmed. You know that one, that's famous. I'll even give you one that's even more obvious. What if somebody's name was Yastaghfir? That's his name. So, what are we going to do here? These names for the Arabs, these are heavy. What's so heavy about them? What's so heavy about them is that as nominals, they have two derivative situations, which is one, they have waznul fi'l, the pattern of a verb, a nominal with the pattern of a verb. And for two, they have ta'rif, definiteness. One nominal that at the same time has two derivative cases. This bogs the word down for them. So now to them, it's like a verb. Not only because it has the pattern of a verb. It's like a verb just for being derivative in two ways. It's like a verb for being derivative in two ways. Didn't I start by telling you? The verb needs the ism, but the ism doesn't need a verb. So that makes the verb derivative. And that the verb actually comes from the ism, which is the masdar, while the ism doesn't come from the verb. Therefore, the verb is derivative. So here, these nominals that I gave you, Ahmed and Yazid and Yaghlib and Yastaghfir, as names of people, these nominals have in them two derivatives, two derivative cases. This makes those words heavy for those old Arabs. So now they're going to treat these words like verbs. Not absolutely, but in some ways. How would they treat these words like verbs? By denying them a kasrah and denying them a tanween. Tanween, absolutely. They don't take tanween, period. And kasrah in the state of jar. And so you would say, Ja'a Ahmadu with no tanween. Ja'a, so Ahmad came. Ja'a Yazidu, Yazid came. Ja'a Yaghlibu, Yaghlib came. Ja'a Yastaghfiru, Yastaghfir came. The state of Rafa' and the sign of Rafa' is a Dhamma according to the origin. According to the origin, it took original i'rab sign here, but it didn't take a tanween though. You'd say Ra'aytu Ahmada without a tanween. Ra'aytu Yazida, I saw Ahmad, I saw Yazid. Ra'aytu Yaghliba, I saw Yaghlib. Ra'aytu Yastaghfira, I saw Yastaghfir. In all these cases, the sign of i'rab is a fatha according to the origin, but there's no tanween because it's mamnu' minas-Sarf. It has been denied a tanween because it resembles a verb. Not merely for its pattern, not merely for its pattern. But what about in the state of jar, where the original sign would be a kasrah? You say, marartu bi Ahmada, not Ahmadi. In the first place, not going to take a tanween. For sure, you're not going to say bi Ahmadin. When you do that, that's because of your weakness in Arabic. Yani, you just started learning. You got some rules under your belt. You know, put a tanween. You know, it's jar. You know, yani, you're not that good yet, so you didn't know you had to do something different, so you put a kasrah and a tanween there. And then you would have said, marartu bi Ahmadin. Marartu bi Yazidin. And that's a mistake. So you're going to say, marartu bi Yazida. Marartu bi Yaghliba. Marartu bi Yastaghfira. And the sign of jar here is a fatha instead of a kasrah because it's mamnu' minas-Sarf. Is there any question here?
Okay, so I didn't give you everything here. Inshallah, I gave you what you needed just to understand what's going on here. And one of the things you should take away from this is that if you want to be successful in Arabic, you need to understand Arabic the way the old Arabs understood it. And when we say the way the old Arabs understood Arabic, we're not talking here just about what does the word mean. We're talking about how they internalize the language. Because for an old Arab, he didn't sit down and take naHw lessons like we are. So it wasn't said to him, oh, whenever the nominal has two derivative cases at once, then we're going to deny it a tanween, etc., etc. No, rather, those old Arabs, they internalized their language. And then for them, this language they have, which it's a very fine-tuned machine for them. It's very consistent and all of its pieces are working together. So when this fine-tuned machine was working within them, and they were processing words, then they found themselves as the cogs were moving and the pieces are transforming and shifting. They found themselves with words, with nominals that were getting two derivative cases at one time. And due to their sensitivity of the language, their sensitivity, yani their fine perception of meanings, then these two derivative cases at once converging on one nominal was heavy for them. And so they would, because of how they internalized their language, they would give these words their own category. Yani, why I'm saying it like that? Because this is the point I'm trying to get to you. Sometimes you're going to encounter a word, you're not going to know if it's mamnu' min as-sarf or not. So it's not a matter of, oh, let's just learn all the words that are mamnu' min as-sarf and we'll just list them and memorize them. And now we know they're mamnu' min as-sarf. Not like that. Rather, you need to understand all of this, what I'm saying to you here. This is, I just gave you like a piece of machinery. Should work, has its own clockwork there. So that when you come across words, you're going to sometimes stop and say, oh, wait, that's mamnu' min as-sarf. Is it mamnu' min as-sarf? And then you need to figure it out. So that's part of internalizing the language there. It's not simply a matter of memorizing words and saying, these words are mamnu' min as-sarf. Okay. So if there's no question, then let's go to the author's text. He says, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him. Asl, original text. وَمَا لَا يَنْصَرِفُ. And among what does not take original i'rab signs is what's mamnu' min as-sarf. فَيُجَرُّ بِالْفَتْحَةِ. It would be in a state of jar, the genitive case, and its sign would be a fatha instead of a kasrah. naHw بِأَفْضَلَ مِنْ. So you're not going to say afdalin min bi because of the ba. Bi afdalin min. No, that's a mistake there. So you're going to say bi afdala min. That fatha is the sign of jar. Why? Because afdal, it is a nominal that it's an adjective. It's a descriptive nominal, so that's derivative. It's descriptive instead of just being a regular nominal. It's a descriptive nominal. Best, afdal, best or better. So it's descriptive, so that's derivative. And it has the pattern of a verb. Illa ma'a al. Except when such words that would be deprived of sarf have al. naHw bil afdali. Once we added al, there's alif and there's lam. Once we added al, then it became accepting of the kasrah. What about the tanween though? It's not going to take a tanween because there's al there. So still didn't get a tanween. So here was deprived of tanween altogether. Take the al off, it's not going to get a tanween. Put the al on, still not going to get a tanween. If you take the al off, then for jar it's going to take a fatha. Put the al on, then for jar it's going to take a kasrah. Or bil idhafah, or in the case of idhafah, these words that would be deprived of sarf, if you put them into the idhafah, then also they're going to accept the kasrah. naHw bi afdalikum, bi afdalikum, the best of you, by the best of you. That's it, idhafah. So it took kasrah there because of the ba. That's because al, when you put al there, then it's going to tip the scale to bring it back to being more like a regular ism. So then you're going to just give it a kasrah. And when you put it into idhafah like that, also that's going to tip the scale and bring it back over to being more like a regular ism. So is everything clear so far?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I wanted to ask you, could you please explain that again about the Idhafah part?
Yes. So here, The word was afdal by itself. It's not in the idafah, afdal. Then there's the damir, kum, you, plural. So afdal, best, kum, you. If we fuse them into an idafah, it becomes the best of you, best of you. Okay, so afdal by itself, if we say be afdal, we say here be afdal, then we're going to give it a fatha because it's mamnu' min as-sarf. But if we complete the idafah here and we annex the pronoun to afdal, then it's going to take the kasrah. If we say bi afdalikum, now it's going to take a kasrah because the idafah itself makes the word become more like a regular ism, not so much resembling a verb anymore.
Okay, thank you. Barakallahu fika.
I mean, you're welcome. So it tips the scales for this word and makes it come back to the side of a nominal, not so much being like a fi'l, a verb, so they're going to give it a kasrah. Same thing for L, because L is for nominals. So, mashallah, seems everything's clear. I'm sure you might need to review that, but yani, if nothing's confusing, if there is, please ask, yani, now's the time. He says, may Allah have mercy on him. Ash-sharh, the explanation. Al-bab al-khamisu mimma kharaja anil asl, the fifth portal that leaves the origin of i'rab signs, is ma la yansarif, what is denied sarf. وهو ما فيه علتان فرعيتان من علل تسع. Such a word is what has in it two derivative cases out of 9. 2 derivative cases out of 9 cases. So there's a total of 9 derivative cases that are regarded for this issue. If a nominal gathers 2 of them at the same time, it will be mamnu' min as-sarf. أو واحدة منها تقوم مقامهما. Or out of those 9, sometimes one of them is enough to make the word mamnu' min as-sarf, because that one derivative is as strong as 2. The one derivative case is going to be sometimes as strong as 2 derivative cases. فالأول, so the first one, كفاطمة, is like Fatima. That's a woman's name. It's feminine. That's a derivative. And it's a proper name. Yani, it's definite. And being definite is a derivative. Being feminine is a derivative. And being definite is a derivative. فَإِنَّ فِيهِ التَّعْرِيفَ وَالتَّأْنِيث. Indeed, this word has definitiveness because it's a proper name, and femininity. وَهُمَا عِلَّتان فَرْعِيَّتان. And those two are both derivatives عَنِ التَّنْكِيرِ وَالتَّذْكِيرِ. Derivatives of indefiniteness and masculinity. So then you're going to say, جاءت فاطمة. رأيت فاطمة. And مررت بفاطمة. Because ممنوع من الصرف. والثاني نحو مساجد ومصابيح. And the second case which is the case of something that has only one derivative that's as strong as two, masajid, mosques. It's plural of masjid. And masabih, lanterns, plural of misbah. فَإِنَّهُمَا جَمْعَانِ. Indeed, those two are both plurals. وَالْجَمْعُ فَرْعٌ عَنِ الْمُفْرَدِ. And the plural is a derivative of the singular. وَصِيغَتُهُمَا صِيغَةُ مُنْتَهَى الْجُمُوعِ. Dun, dun, dun. And the form, the structure of these plurals is the structure called muntahal jumur, the ultimate plural. This is the form of the ultimate plural. وَمَعْنَى هَذَا, the meaning of this, أَنَّ مَفَاعِلَ وَمَفَاعِيل, is that a plural having the pattern of mafa'il, like masajid, and mafa'il, like masabih. وَقَفَتِ الْجُمُوعُ عِنْدَهَا. Plurality cannot go further than that. Plurality cannot go further than this form. وَانْتَهَتْ إِلَيْهِمَا. Plurality stops there. فَلَا تَتَجَاوَزُهُمَا. And doesn't go further than that. It's the ultimate, those are the ultimate plurals. فَلَا يُجْمَعَانِ مَرَّةً أُخْرَى. And you might be saying, well, what does that even mean, though? That's not clear for me, that the plural can't go further. What are you talking about? It means that you can't pluralize something further than this. Meaning, these, the ultimate plural, could be the plural of a plural. So you have in Arabic singular, and you have a plural, and in Arabic you have the ultimate plurals. They can be plurals for plurals. And then you can't go any further than that. بِخِلَافِ غَيْرِهِمَا مِنَ الْجُمُوعِ, which is different from other plurals. فَإِنَّهُ قَدْ يُجْمَعْ, because another plural that didn't yet reach the ultimate plurality could still be pluralized. So, subhanAllah, you see how vast Arabic language is. Always, like when we take lessons in Arabic, when we were taking lessons, the teachers would always say again and again, you see how vast the Arabic language is. Taqul, you say, kalbun, dog, wa aklub, and dogs, aklub, dogs, kafalsin wa aflus. The pattern is like fals and aflus. Kalb wa aklub, like fals wa aflus. Fals is change, that's not gold or silver. Change meaning money, some coins, yani, made from nickel or lead or copper, not gold or silver. That's fals. Fals is the singular. Fals is singular. Aflus is the plural. Arabic language is a language of patterns. So something that has that pattern is like kalb and aklub. Kalb meaning dog, aklub meaning dogs. ثم تقول, then you say, aklub, dogs. So that's already a plural. And then wa akalib, dogs. Yani in English, there's nothing we can do there but just repeat it. Khalas. So the Arabic surpassed the English there. Aklub is dogs. Akalib is the plural of dogs, which is already plural. ولا يجوز في أكالب أن يجمع بعد. And it's not valid that akalib would be pluralized any further. So it's the ultimate plural. Muntaha al-jama'. It's the end of the plurality. وَكَذَا أَعْرُبٌ وَأَعَارِبٌ. Also, أَعْرُب, that's a plural. وَأَعَارِبٌ, and that's a plural of the plural. فَلَا يَجُوزُ فِي أَعَارِبْ أَن يُجْمَعَ كما يجمع كما يجمع أكلب وأكال على أكالب وآصال على أصائل. So this word أعارب, it cannot be pluralized further. You cannot pluralize أعارب like you could pluralize أكلب, which is already a plural. And you can turn أكلب into أكالب, and asal, that's a time of the day. That's plural though. Asal, certain time of the day. Asil is the singular. Asal is the plural. Ala asail. And you can pluralize that to asail. فَكَأَنَّ الْجَمْعَ قَدْ تَكَرَّرَ فِيهِمَا. It's like the plurality has been reiterated. فَنُزِّلَ لِذَلِكَ مَنْزِلَةَ جَمْعَيْنِ. And so, for that reason, it has been given the station of two plurals. In other words, that's why this type, even though the word only has one derivative, which is plurality, but since this derivative is the ultimate plural, then it's like, this derivative has the strength of two derivatives. So they're going to make it mamnu' min as-sarf without having another derivative in it. I think we should stop there.